Hey, I'm Shy Fox, and today we are going to be drawing a sea bunny. I'm going to take you through this tutorial step by step so that you can follow along and draw this too, no matter your skill level. I'm going to be using Clip Studio Paint, but if you use a different art program, that's fine as well. Lots of the tools that I'm using are basic, and most programs will have them. If you've never made digital art before, you can check out my playlist with videos of what you'll need to know before getting started in digital art. Any other videos or links mentioned during this video will be in the description so that you can go back and check them at your own convenience. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials like this one and more digital art tutorials in general. I've got lots to teach so that you can improve your digital art skills. You can pause the video at any time to catch up, and you can also use hashtag #drawwithshyfox on Instagram if you want to share your work when you're done. I'll see it there, and so will the community. And speaking of community, we have a Discord that you can join and share your art there and chat with other artists. We are going to get started drawing our bunny slug, or scientifically known as the Jaruna parva. That is my best pronunciation of that. I have this color palette for you guys. You can download it from the description, or you can just like copy paste it into your Clip Studio Paint program or whatever paint program you're using. So I've got it here, and I've just got it as a floating window, which is going to work best for my purposes, so I can just drag it out. And I'm going to resize that. And my workspace I've modified slightly from the defaults of Clip Studio Paint, and drug these around too. And if you find that you want it to look more like this, you can always move them around. And if you're missing any windows, then you can go to the Windows tab and see them all here. So we're gonna go File, New, and I'm gonna do a 3000 canvas by 3000 canvas. And I do like to record time-lapse. 90 DPI is fine. Click OK, and mine appeared over here because I already had a canvas over there. So I'm just gonna drag this back into the main work area and zoom in on it. So we do have one layer here, and if you're worried if that's like a paper layer or something, you can delete it and make a new one. We're gonna start with the background because why not? Sometimes it's a good idea to start there. So I'm actually gonna make a folder for myself, and I'm gonna put a layer in that folder, and I could even name it background, but I just kind of like to color the folder. So my background color coded in my layers panel is gonna be green, and I'm gonna color drop these colors that I've got on our palette, and I'm going to use the first color as this bluish gray, and the second, if you just click on each of these, first color and second color, and I'm going to color pick that second almost like purpley gray. So I've got both of those over here in the colors that we've got here. Now let's go to the gradient tool, and we want to click on foreground to background. This is just going to make a really easy transition. It's truly just pulling these two colors from here. So we can even just give that a test. So make sure you're clicked on your empty layer there, not a folder. And I'm going to drag from the top down to the bottom, and that's going to make a lovely gradient for us like magic. Okay, I'm even just going to close this because that's all I want to do with it for now. Make a new folder above our background, and I'm going to color code this one to yellow, and this will be our bunny folder, our sea bunny slug folder. And I'm going to make a new layer inside of it. We are only using raster layers today because we are not doing anything with lines, no vector, nothing like that. So to get started with that, then we are going to color pick our first color under the body of the palette, and we can just use a regular G pen for this part, and you could use any brush you want for this part, but we're going to mostly just solidly color in a shape kind of like that, a bit round but also a bit flattened out, kind of like that. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be messing with the edges of ours. And I'm actually going to make it smaller. That's rather big for my space, so I'm just going to transform this. Go edit, transform if that's what you need to do, and put it about there. Great. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna make a new layer, and inside of this, I'm just gonna color pick the white layer, and very closely to the edges of the other, I'm just gonna draw inside of it. And this can be rather imperfect because we're gonna pull out some blending brushes and play with that. Like, this is really imperfect, and that's totally fine. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit more so we can see what we're really doing here. And I'm gonna merge these together. I'm gonna make a new layer, clip it on. You can clip like that. So I'm gonna grab the airbrush tool, and with the airbrush tool, I'm gonna color pick that middle color of our body from the color palette. And with our airbrush tool, I'm just gonna kind of lightly go on the bottom, just a little bit, and a little bit of the back side. And for the record, this side of our sea bunny is the tail side with the tail, and then this side is gonna be with the face and the ears. So that's all I want to do there. I can even merge this down, simplify, and keep this all on one layer. And I'm gonna go down to the blending tools, and I'm gonna find myself the first blend tool here. And I like the hardness at full, and you can see my settings here. I'm just gonna do hardness at full, or maybe even just a couple down from full. What do we think looks good? I think that looks good for this. And I'm just gonna kind of lightly go around the edges, and this part's gonna kind of flatten out. Flatten the little. And I'm going to kind of blend this in a little. So we've mostly got flat, and then it gets kind of fluffy on the edges there, and we're gonna kind of fluff up towards the front. And then we're gonna kind of ease off. Maybe we'll even shrink our brush and just kind of make that go up. Kind of soften that. And just some little bumps here and there. So you get to play with your blend brush. They're pretty fun. This works best, of course, when all the layers that we were using are merged together. So that will look something like that, little fluffy, puffy ball. And I might even do a little bit on the inside to where some of these colors of the gradients that we put in meet. Something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Yours could look different, and that's okay. So I'm going to add a new layer, and at this point we're going to go ahead and do the spots and the ears and the tail. So let's actually start with the ears. So I'm going to color pick that color. This is like a dark brown almost. And I'm going to use a brush tool. I like this round mixing brush, and again, this is a default brush from Clip Studio Paint, and if you're using a different version of Clip Studio Paint, maybe you don't have this exact brush, it's under the thick paint brushes there. And you can just find one that feels good to you. This is a rather basic brush, so this should work. And I'm going to turn down the size of that, and I'm going to do a little stroke this way and a little stroke this way. Give them some space, and this is going to be sort of the baseline for the ears. And from there, I'm just going to do little bubbles like that. Make my brush a little bigger, and I'm not going to press too hard. I want some opacity, that background coming through just a little bit. And they sort of angle up. You can think of drawing like plants. Right about there. So I'm going to go back to my brush, and I'm going to go in and go over sort of the inner middle parts. So I'm steering clear of the far edges, so I'm just kind of overlapping with what I've done. I'm on the same layer, and this is kind of just darkening inside. We're gonna do the same thing, just like these little, almost like leaves, rounded shapes. Okay, and now we're gonna do the tail, really similar, but to do the tail, we're gonna have to create a new layer and put it behind our white fluff ball layer. So underneath would be below. And we're gonna do a stroke here, stroke there, a stroke here, and really similar. And it's possible you like the look of not going back a second time to do the inside, I guess. And maybe you just want to stick with that look. I'm almost liking this better. The first time I did sort of a trial run of this, I kind of liked it the second way. And then I did it again right now and I'm like, no, I think I like it the other way. So what you can do is you can totally try more than once to get the look that you want. And I might try again right now and see how it looks. I'm going to do pretty much the exact same thing as I did just on the tail. And I'm going to do that for the ears, but I'm not going to make you guys watch that. Alright, so just sped that up for you guys. And now we can continue. You can do the same thing, redo it. It's not like the first time you ever do something is the time, like the exact way you have to keep it. Trying more than once is basically practice, and practice is valuable. So I'm going to click on my ear layer, the lock transparent pixels button, and I've got this layer I can just delete. There we go. That was just because I redid the ears. I'm going to go to the tail layer and also click lock transparent pixels, and we're going to color pick our lighting on our palette. And back to our painting, and I'm going to grab the airbrush, the soft airbrush. I'm just going to shrink that down and just kind of lightly make sure I'm on the right layer, starting with the ears. And I'm just going to lightly go on the bottoms there, just on the edges here, maybe some up there, like that, some on the bottom in there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the tail, little bits at the bottoms, some there, little tip there, little tip there. It's somewhat random, but not totally. We're just talking like edges here and not in the middles. Staying away from the middles. Could even do a little bit on the tip there. That looks good. Let's add spots to our body of our bunny, our sea bunny. So new layer, and we're gonna pull that dark brown color again for the spots. And I'm gonna use that same round mixing brush that I was using, and we're gonna do this in a way that we have our bigger dots on more on the back side and sort of along here. So this is somewhat strategically placed, but we also want some sense of randomness. So we can do smaller ones towards the face. We're actually going to put in facial features, but we can do a couple of dots here and there. We might have to like fix the placement of these dots, and I'm making these ones smaller so that they don't interfere with some of the facial features that we're going to have. And perhaps in your case, maybe it'll be easier to go and do the facial features first. We'll do that right after this. And if you're having trouble with your dots, but I thought we would just toss some dots on here first, and they are not an exact science. And then you can do a couple little ones throughout. So something like that. So you have some big ones more or less in the center, and then just sort of little ones around edging everything else, and leaving a clear space for the face that we can put facial features in. So I'm gonna make a layer on top of all the other ones. We're already using the color I want to use for the eyes, which is again this dark brown, and I'm going to make, with a brush, a dark dot on that side, and I might even move it around And I'm gonna make a new layer. This is often what I do. Paint one eye at a time on separate layers, and the reason for that is just to move them. And this one's gonna feel longer, and I better make them the same size because it's on this longer one is on the side of the face, so it could position more like that, closer to this edge of the bunny's body. And this one then needs to be quite a bit bigger to match in height essentially of the other one, so that's better. I'm just gonna move it over a bit more. Get the placement of these kind of where I want them, which I think right there looks good. And at this point, I'm gonna stick them on the same layer because I'm happy with that. And I'm also going to now draw the mouth on a new layer with the same little brush, and it's just gonna be like that. An upside down flying bird. It's like an upside down bird, you know, those birds you draw, those paintings when you don't really know how to paint, something like that. Great. Okay, I'm gonna merge this down so all our facial features are on the same layer. I'm gonna click the Lock Transparent Pixels button, and I'm gonna click the lighting again. Grab that lighting from our palette with our dropper. Go back to my soft airbrush brush, and on the bottoms of the eyes, I'm just gonna add little highlights just on the bottom, so it's like gradient, going a gradient towards the top. And I'm also gonna do tiny bits on the edges of the mouth, so just on the corners of the mouth like that. That's all we're gonna do there. And I gotta create a layer underneath if I'm gonna do the cheeks underneath the eyes and mouth. Gonna eyedropper the cheeks, and again I'm gonna grab my airbrush and I'm just gonna do soft cheek color there. And I'm not loving this dot being here overlapping the cheek, so I can lasso that and I can go to the layer that has my dots. And if I click transform, I can certainly just move it aside. Okay, I'm gonna make a couple adjustments. I feel like this ear would actually benefit from being rotated this way. So feel free to make any adjustments you want to make your bunny look better. I'm just being a little bit of a perfectionist, but that's okay. Just small things sometimes make a big difference. Sometimes they don't. And maybe shrink the size of these just a tiny, tiny bit. But you do yours the way you think looks cute. And one more thing we can do, and I'm gonna grab this background color, the dark background color from our palette, and I'm gonna make a layer inside of our background folder, and I'm just gonna grab the pen tool and just do like a little shadow, just a little shadow underneath our sea slug. I see one more small thing I'd like to do to fix my sea bunny slug. I'm gonna grab the ears, I'm gonna grab the cheeks, and I'm gonna grab the face, and I can click control and click and drag all of them together. And I think if I just pull them up, it just looks kind of a little bit better. And the other thing I'm gonna do, and because everything's on different layers, that's the awesome thing about layers, is we can adjust things after the fact. That's why digital art's fun. And so I'm gonna grab the eyes and the cheeks, and I'm also gonna transform and increase the size of these. And I am more satisfied with the look of that. Imperfect, but it looks just fine. And that is all there is to drawing our sea slug. Hopefully yours turned out pretty well, and if it didn't, maybe you want to give this another try. If you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to like and subscribe and check out the other videos on my channel. I hope you have a good one and take care.